Welcome to Unstoppable Stories That Move. I'm your host, Sally Hed Dahlquist. I've traveled all over the world to run marathons and am fascinated by the ordinary people who do extraordinary things. They just won't quit. No matter what life throws at them, they keep going. Mile after mile, challenge after challenge, they find a way to push beyond their limits. So listen as these seemingly normal people share their stories of resilience from the race course and beyond, and inspire us to keep moving forward too. Let's get to it. Hi everyone. I'm Sally Hed Dahlquist, zooming in from Afton, Minnesota. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm here with the unstoppable Scott Keenan. Scott is an athlete and a change maker. He is the man behind the marathon. Scott is the original founder of Grandma's Marathon in 1977 and was the race director for the first 37 years. And this year, 2026, is special because it's the 50th anniversary of Grandma's Marathon. But none of this would have been possible without Scott's vision to create a world-class race with a small-town charm. Scott had many professional and personal obstacles in his way, yet he relentlessly pursued this dream of making Grandma's Marathon a world-class event for elite and everyday runners alike, while showcasing northern Minnesota. Today, this event has a $40 million economic impact on our region, and his impact is also felt worldwide for hundreds of thousands of people. Truly amazing. Scott retired from the marathon in 2013, but he's still involved in the community in Duluth, Minnesota. He became an author in 2021 to write his story, My Journey to Grandma's Marathon, where he talks about the histories and heroes of the race. There's a lot more to Scott's story, and I can't wait to hear from him. So, Scott, how are you today? Hi, Scott.
Hello, Sally. I'm doing great. Duluth, Minnesota. You know, it might be warm in other parts of Minnesota, but I was down in Canal Park at the finish line of Grandma's, where Grandma's would finish today, and it was 58 degrees Fahrenheit. It was. It's cooler by the lake, and it's over the hill. It could be 20, 25 degrees warmer, just like 2, 3, 4 miles away. But gosh, it's if we could run the race today, it'd been perfect.
Yeah, so you live really close to the finish line. You're still in Duluth, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a native Duluthian, born and raised, and I'm not going anywhere. This is my town, and I love it. And I can't even tell you how excited I am for the 50th, and of Grandma's, because I started the race when I was 23 years old. We didn't have a permit to do the race. We did it anyways. Our entry fee was $3, and with that $3, that you got a ride to the starting line, you got a finisher's T-shirt, you got a free beer at the finish line. And you got a certificate of finishing the race sent to you after the race, and all of that for $3.
And what your budget for that first race was $649.51.
We had a small budget, but back in those days, I mean, if you thought about it, we were in the infancy of running marathons and road racing. Things were starting to click a little bit, but it was North Shore Striders, the running club that I was involved in, that started Grandma's Marathon. I mean, entry fees for our races were 50 cents if you were a member and $1 if you were a non-member.
And that was in the mid 1970s.
Yeah, exactly. 71, 72, 73 in that range. And road racing was just starting. It really kicked off in 1972 when Frank Shorter won the gold medal in the marathon in Munich, and that really started getting the running craze going in the country, where people says, "Hey, we can run these marathons." Marathons started popping up all over the United States, and today there's approximately 1,000 marathons, and Grandma's was around in the mid-30s of marathons. So we were one of the youngest marathons in the country.
You're one of the youngest marathons?
Excuse me, oldest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
I'll get that correct. Yeah, one of the oldest, so we'll get that correct. But, I mean, it's like we started it. We knew we had a great course on the North Shore. Mm-hmm. And as my good friend Gary Bjorklund has said, many times is that what else do you want in the marathon? It starts in the middle of the woods, runs along the beautiful shores of Lake Superior, and finishes at a pub.
You can finish at the bar.
Yeah. So it's not a bad deal going on,
Oh, yeah. And Gary's going to be my next guest after you, too.
Oh, yeah. Gary's a great friend. And to be honest with you, my take from day one on June 25th, 1977, was to get Gary Bjorklund to run his first marathon in his hometown where he was born, and I was successful in getting him there. He was a 1976 10,000 meter Olympian, and we had to get Gary to run his first marathon, and we were successful for that. And that really got us going as a premier marathon real early in our first race, actually. So my hat's off to Gary Bjorklund. I mean, if it wasn't for Gary's, he's the best ambassador that we've ever had with Grandma's Marathon. And I take my hat off to Gary Bjorklund.
Yeah, and so much so that in 1991, you named the half marathon after him, in honor of him.
That was a no-brainer. I mean, I was at the finish line for years, and I was watching football players trying to run the marathon, and our medical tents were exploding with people that are having problems, and we needed to change. We needed to add a half marathon to get the right people into the right race, and we did that. And we were one of the first marathons, if not the first marathon, to add a half marathon to the marathon at that time on the same day. And the objective there was clearly just to get people to run the right race. And we were a little selfish with that too, because it brought us a little bit more revenue as well. And it just exploded. And then we knew right away that if people ran the half marathon, they're going to, in a year or two, they were going to start focusing, hey, I can do the marathon now. So it ended up being a great feeder system into the Grandma's Marathon.
Yeah, today there's 19,000 runners in the marathon.
Yep.
There's 19,000 runners for the whole event. There's 9,500 in the marathon and 7,000 in the half.
Right. I think they backed off a little bit in the half to the focus this year. I mean, if you think about it, we have these point-to-point races are very difficult to organize. Mm-hmm. It's not like you have an out-back course and we have to bus everybody up to the starting line, and then we have to bring all their running gear back to the starting line before they finish, and mm-hmm. the roads are closed, and it's very difficult, and so it's very challenging to do what we do. But the biggest issue is that we don't have the buses to bring the people up there. We bring buses from Minneapolis, many.
Yep.
Close to 100 buses from the cities bringing up to bring the runners back. In fact, we put 1,000 people on the train
yes.
to get to the starting line. So to have a point-to-point course, the logistics to it is very, very difficult.
For those who are not familiar with Grandma's Marathon, there is a little train, a historic train that you can take from the finish line straight up Lake Superior. It's the North Shore of Lake Superior to this little town called Two Harbors. And it takes about an hour or so, 2 hours on the train. And I mean, how many other marathons can you take the train to the start?
The runners take the train up there because there's toilets right on the train, mm-hmm. so they don't have to fight the battles on at the starting line with all the portable toilets. So because you never have enough portable toilets at the starting line.
Oh, I'm going to give a little disclaimer though, but sometimes they don't work the best. They try to make sure all the toilets work on the train, but there's still a couple issues here and there. So be prepared for that. I love the train. I've taken the train a couple times, but this year I'm going to take the bus because it's just faster.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you said you were down at Canal Park today. I imagine you were reminiscing, thinking about all the times that you were involved in this. What was going through your mind today?
No, I was just doing some errands, and I was down there, and it was cold. You had to have a sweatshirt on almost. So no, I've been reminiscing about this 50th anniversary of Grandma's Marathon for a whole year. It's a big deal, and it's a big deal for the people of Duluth, the volunteers, the sponsors. It's a big deal for the staff. It's a big deal for the runners. in a small way, I guess it's a big deal for me. It's a great race. It's a world-class race in a small town with a lot of exciting charm in it. And we're the largest marathon in the small town in the country. I mean, all the big marathons are in big metro areas. We're the 10th largest marathon in a very small town. So 86,000 people live here, and it's very difficult to do. And but it's been exciting. I'm personally looking forward to this race, and keep our fingers crossed. We'll have great weather and all that good stuff that goes with it.
Yeah. So in your book, you said you wanted to create an event that you could be proud of for generations. So I was thinking about your kids and grandkids, like if you had to tell them the story of what you did, because for them, you're just grandpa. Why are people constantly asking you about this weird race?
Well, my grandkids, I have a lot of grandkids. I got 8 grandkids, so each one has a different story to it. 3 of my grandsons, Austin, Aaron, and Andrew, they grew up with Grandma's Marathon. They were at the finish line for all those early years when they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. They know all about it, and it's a big deal to them. One of my other grandkids was with me one day, and we're in the truck and driving, and all of a sudden there was a news story on about Grandma's Marathon, a little bit about the music on Grandma's Marathon. And G.B. Layton, who's the only musician that's into the Grandma's Marathon Hall of Fame, was on air with another musician, and they were talking, and I was saying to my grandson, "Oh yeah, that's G.B. Layton. They're in the Hall of Fame." And all of a sudden the conversation went on, and G.B. Layton says, "I'm in the Hall of Fame there, and I know Scott Keenan." So that grandson hasn't been exposed to as the other ones, and he thought that was pretty cool. My name got mentioned. So
okay. Oh, maybe we should back up a bit. You got married late in life, like you said.
Yeah.
If you didn't get married by age 40, there's a 5% chance that you'll ever get married. I personally got married at age 47. It took me a while to finally settle down.
Right. Well,
so your wife, Carrie, did you guys have kids together? Are these grandkids?
No, not at all.
Yours or hers, or okay?
Yeah, it was my wife's family before this, but I'm Grandpa Scott Tomal, and it's pretty exciting for me. But no, I got married 39 and a half, and Carrie was 38, and so no, we never had kids together. But it's a great family and a lot of great, wonderful kids, and great. And my side of the family and her side of the family, we all get along well. So
yeah, I tell people I went from single girl to married to grandma in 1 year. I fast tracked it.
Well, I did that too, and I remember. I mean, this is kind of a crazy story. I told my wife, I don't change diapers, and then she says, well, the grandkids can't come here then. I says, will you teach me how to do it? And she called my bluff right away. So I became an expert in changing diapers. So.
Oh. Well, maybe we could talk a little bit about how you grew up. I mean, one thing you talk about in your book is obviously your family. And once you graduated, you came home one day and all your stuff was on the front porch. Your parents basically kicked you out and you lived in your truck for a while. You were homeless. How did that feel?
I didn't feel homeless. I had a topper and I slept back there with a sleeping bag. And if you know my dad, Chester Shannon Keenan, he left home at 16. So when I graduated from high school, I got a piece of luggage for my graduation present. And I guess I didn't catch on fast enough for that. But shortly after that, I was on an airplane down to San Antonio, Texas, in basic training with the Air National Guard. And so that was just the way it was, back those days. If, you get the kid through high school and he's got to go on and do his thing. And obviously, at that point, my dad and I had some choice words together. And
Yeah.
But later on in life, we became best friends, and it was Dad was very proud of Grandma's Marathon, and he was very proud of what I did. It was a journey that it just had to go its own pace. It just had to go through this to get to that.
Yeah, I was thinking that in most cases, parents are the role models for the kids. And you said, your dad was kind of a hard drinker and had some other issues. But maybe in this case, you were the role model for him. How do you think you inspired him to clean up?
Well, I think Dad had ulcers and he had to quit drinking, so I think that was the deal. And when he quit drinking, that was just the best thing, and then it made sense. But the earlier marathons from 77, 78, and 79, I lived in apartments. I might have lived in one apartment for 6 months and moved on. So I needed a permanent address that the mail would come into because it was all mail. So Dad actually was the first secretary of Grandma's Marathon. So the phone calls would ring and Dad would answer, leave messages for me, and the mail would come and he would collect it and I would pick it up from him, every other day or so. So I always said Dad was the first secretary of Grandma's Marathon, and he answered the phone. So he got into this. It was very interesting, and so, but then at that point, after 3 years, we got an office, and then that changed. But Dad was very proud of it. He was. I'll give you an example. It took me 8 years to graduate from college.
Yeah.
Because I paid every dime I had with cash. I didn't take any loans. So when I ran out of money, I went to work and made more money. And so when I graduated, I never told anybody. I was older, and I never told anybody. It was 1981 and I graduated from college. And Dad found out that I graduated from college. I never went through the ceremonies or nothing like that because I didn't have to tell anybody. Then he says, I want to see the certificate that you graduated. It was like, okay, here it is. And he took it and I said, okay, take it. I don't care. And then he framed it.
Yes.
And so that said a lot of things there, didn't it? That spoke very strong words there.
So he may have never said that he was proud of you, but he showed you.
Oh yeah, it very much so. And he was. And our relationship as time went on was very, very close and very strong.
I was wondering if being the secretary and then he became the sweeper at the race really gives you a sense of purpose.
Well, Dad had an old Toyota pickup truck and he put a mattress in the back.
Oh, really?
And an old mattress in the back, and he went down behind the runners, and if they couldn't make it, they hopped in there in the back of the pickup, and he got them right to the finish line. So, but all my family got involved. I mean, if my brother Gary was involved, my brother Mike was involved. Anybody I knew in 77, 78, 79, I mean, you were not asked to do it. You were basically said, I need you to do this.
Yeah.
And if I had one strength, I mean, I had a lot of faults, I'm sure, and I know that. But if I had one strength, is that I could convince other people to move forward with my goals of building a world-class race here in Duluth, and people followed that, and that made me feel good. I could get people to see my vision, and so that's, if I had one strength, that was it right there.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been possible without your vision leading the charge. What was your vision for the race?
Well, from day one, I was going to build a world-class race at Grandma's. I mean, there was no doubt about it. I mean, I was going to get Gary Bjorklund here to run his first marathon. Born in Duluth, Olympian. He was going to start this race, and we're going to have him run it. And I convinced him to do it, and gave him a few dollars for gas money. And Gary ran his first marathon here. He loves Duluth. He loves this area. And then it took off. The third year, 1979, we became the largest marathon in the Upper Midwest in just the third year. And at that point, we knew we had something really cooking. And then it really took off after that. And then, 1979 was a huge year for us in a sense, because Gary Bjorklund ran Grandma's again. And Ricky Wilde from England, we brought him in to run Grandma's. and Ricky Wild ran a 2:14 and Gary ran a 2:16. So Ricky Wild beat Gary Bjorklund, and that didn't sit well with Gary. And so all of a sudden we're into international marathoning now at Grandma's Marathon. We're having our own Olympics here in Duluth. It was the goal that I wanted to have the best runners running here and competing and see who wins. But then this is important. 1980 was an Olympic year in Russia, and Jimmy Carter boycotted the Olympics in Russia, and Gary Bjorklund refused to run the Olympic trials. They still held the Olympic trials in New York, and Gary said, like Bill Rogers and others, Don Cardon and others, said, we're not going to run the trials. There was no prize money. There was nothing. They're not going to run it. Gary decided to run Grandma's Marathon in 1980 for his Olympics, his hometown, and nobody's going to beat him this time. And that's when Gary Bjorklund ran a 2:10:20, which was one of the fastest marathons in the world that year. And he ran it solo, nobody even close to him. So it was very, very difficult to run. That put Grandma's Marathon on the map. Like you can't believe it. 1980 was the key thing, but also in 1980. We had in 79, 80, and 81, we had Lorraine Muller from New Zealand run Grandma's Marathon, and Lorraine had just as much to do about building Grandma's Marathon up, because all of a sudden we got this gal from New Zealand running great times, and a 3-time champion, Lorraine Muller.
And back in those early days, you didn't have any prize money either.
No prize money. The first time we had prize money was 1987.
Okay.
And it was for women only. And the men didn't get any prize money. And it was just for women, because we were hosting the 1987 Women's National Marathon Championships. And this is where Janice Klecker from Minneapolis, she won the race and won $10,000, and she won a 1-carat solitaire carat diamond necklace that she still wears every day to this day. And so it's so Janice Klecker and her husband Barney Klecker have been important to this race as well. But so that we had prize money for the national championships for the women, but we didn't have the national championships for the men. So there was only money for the women. The men got zipped.
Nice.
So
that's unusual.
You can see we're pro women at Grandma's Marathon.
Yeah, and you wanted to host all these other important elite athletic events as well. You're very successful in that.
We were very successful. I agree. We hosted 9 national championships at Grandma's Marathon, either for the half or the full marathon. And we bid for 9, and we won all 9 of those bids with the United States Track and Field Association. So we were very successful on hosting it, and that it was important for us to bring the best Americans to the race when we could. Other than that, we've had close to 100 countries represented at Grandma's Marathon. So it's like we wanted runners from all over the world, but at certain times we said we're going to host the national championships, and the prize money would be for Americans only.
Okay. Yeah, when the last couple of times I've been to Grandma's, they've put out flags in Canal Park of all the countries that are represented. So you can walk down Lake Superior and find your flag.
It's true. So it's exciting. It's, back, I believe it was 1987, we actually brought in, for the first time that I believe that happened, was that we brought in the Cuban from Cuba, their national marathon team to Grandma's Marathon. And they'd never been to the United States before, and they came to Grandma's with their whole team and their coaches, and it was very exciting to have the Cuba to have their national team run Grandma's Marathon in 1987.
They won it?
No, they didn't. It was to run Grandma's. They brought their best runners there as a team, and so we had representatives from Cuba, obviously a communist country, come here and run Grandma's. So it's not easy for them to come to different countries to run races.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Havana Marathon is in November, and I'd like to do it someday.
And this was 1987, and it was very difficult for that to happen. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Did they go elsewhere around the country? Do you know? Or did they just kind of go to Minnesota and back?
They just went to Grandma's and back.
Oh, so that's great.
And we brought them in to do it. So it was like, so it was pretty interesting. It was fun, and that was the philosophy that I had and that we had was we're going to bring the best runners in. If we can invite runners from Cuba to come to Grandma's, we're going to do it. If they're going to come from Russia, Ukraine, we're going to do it. We wanted to showcase Duluth at its best. And I think we did a pretty good job of that.
And you eventually got involved in politics, and you're essentially an ambassador for the region now.
I did get involved in politics. I love politics.
Was that after you retired from the marathon?
No. It wasn't. No, I always enjoyed politics from a very young age. I don't belong to any political party. Never want to be involved in a political party. The only thing I've ever joined was the North Shore Striders. I paid $5 entry fee every year to be a member of the North Shore Striders. I always looked at myself as an independent, wanting to just do what's best. And most of the races in local races, anyways, are nonpartisan races. And so, but the political parties get involved anyways, and just because that's what they do. And so anyways, I ran, and it was against one of the liberal political parties, and I won, and I don't think anybody thought I was going to win because I didn't have any money. But what I did is I ran to every house, 200 houses a day, knocking on doors, handing out brochures. And when I did every house in the first district once, then I did it again a second time. And so I knocked on doors, hand brochures, asked for no yard signs. I just wanted their vote, and easily won 2 terms of my election. And then my wife said, "When are you going to find time for me?" And I said, "Good point." I said, "Good point." Yeah. I did not run for the 3rd term. So
what position were you on?
I was city councilor for the 1st district in city of Duluth. It was Eastern Duluth.
Okay.
I loved it. It was a great passion of mine. I loved it.
Yeah. You said you started the marathon when you were only 23 years old, right? And you were part of North Shore Striders, and you were still in college.
I was president of the North Shore Striders. I was president of the North Shore Striders when I was 19.
Okay.
And so we did things young back then.
So when did you start running? Because I know you were in college.
I never ran in high school.
Okay.
I was too busy trying to make money. I grew up we didn't really know too much when I was younger, but I grew up, as we got older, it was a poor family. We didn't have a lot of stuff. If you wanted anything, you had to work for it. So in high school, I didn't run because I had to work, and so I had a lot of different jobs to make as much money as I could to get any independence I could get, and that was important for me. I was always a good saver, and I was going to make some money and save everything I could. But when the Vietnam War was going on, I graduated. I'm watching TV, and they had the ping pong balls pumped down, and my ping pong ball for my birthday was I was selected number 42, so I was going to go to be in the Army for sure in Vietnam. But just like a month or so before that, I was accepted into the Minnesota Air National Guard, and so in February of 1972, I was in Lackland Air Force Base in basic training. And then after 6 weeks there, 7 weeks I spent in Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, training to be a firefighter. So I spent 6 years in the Minnesota Air National Guard as a firefighter in Duluth. But I always felt that I was lucky. I didn't get drafted. I didn't get in the Army, so I didn't go to Vietnam. So I was lucky.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I talked to Mike Ware, who was a pilot in Vietnam, a helicopter pilot. And wow, you always have some scary stories. So,
well, of course, yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, and people didn't support the war, and it was.
Nope.
I'm glad you found a way around it. And
well, it was just pure luck, because when you were in 10th grade, you could sign up for the guards.
mm-hmm.
But if they didn't have a slot open for you, you weren't going to get in, So I didn't have any connection or nothing. It was just pure luck that I got in a month or so before I was going to be drafted into the Army. So
yeah, I think every guy your age was watching those ping pong balls.
Oh yeah, certainly was. And when you had 42, it was not a good number.
Yeah. And then you went to college and paid your way through, kind of on the Trek team at the same time. Oh yeah, my husband and my sister were both at UMD also.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah,
81, 82.
Yep. I want at that point, I was in a very fitness mode and health mode. I wanted to go to college to study health. And I back in, I would say 72, 73, I was eating goat cheese and dried nuts and eating Brewer's Yeast shakes. And I was just eating anything healthy. I'm into my running now. I'm taking vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin D. I was taking desiccated liver tablets. I was doing everything I could to be a better runner and be healthy. So I decided to go to college to learn more about health. And that was the reason I went to college. Because when I graduated from high school, I was never, ever going to go to college. I mean, I had to, and I put it in the book, is that I had to basically negotiate my way to college. I mean, to get into college, because I didn't have the scores on the ACT test to get in. But I showed them a handful of cash, and I said, give me some classes to take. And if I don't pass them with good grades, then you can kick me out.
Yeah.
And they agreed with that. And so I got into college, but now I got to get on the track team. I mean, I'm really not a runner. I never ran in high school. I just started running it at basic training and stuff. So I don't have a lot of experience. So now I got to maneuver my way on the track team. And I was successful with that. And so nothing was necessarily easy. I found out that I was pretty good at negotiating things and working my way through those things. So if you wanted to get it done, you could get it done,
What was your running time? I mean, like your statistics, because you yourself were not quite an elite athlete.
No. I was a good runner in northern Minnesota. I mean, my best time probably was a 6 mile with, my time was 31.09, 31 minutes basically for 6 miles, averaging 5:11 per mile.
5 minutes and 11 seconds. Oh my God.
So I could compete, and I finished high in races and road races. I did well, and so it was fun. I wasn't an elite athlete, and I think I stated that I was better at. I felt I was better at organizing events than running them, but I was a competitive runner, and if I said this more than once, is that for good or for bad, I liked being in charge. So that's how come I got into race directing. And my first races that I organized was in 1972. So I was organizing races from 1972 to 2013.
So you went from running a race to running the race.
Yep. Well, and it was a great time where road racing was just exploding. Back in 68, 69, and 70, where I wasn't involved, but a guy named Dan Clennell was, starting the North Shore Striders in 1968. It was all about track races. Running clubs were popping up all over the country. If it was New York, Illinois, South Dakota, Wisconsin, the Twin Cities Track Club, it was all track clubs. And people would go to track races all over the country. And the only communications that everybody had was newsletters, a monthly or quarter newsletter. So you knew what event was going on, and that you would hop in your car and packed full of runners, and and homemade sandwiches, and you would go to a race and run track races. When I became more involved in 1973, the transition was making into less track, almost 100% road races.
Okay.
At the peak time, the North Shore Striders, we probably organized 22, 23 different road races per year.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much track races, although we did compete in a few track races. But it was road racing was the key thing all across the country, and that was the fun development of North Shore Striders, which led right into in 1977 starting Grandma's Marathon.
Right, because there's the Road Racers Club of America, and there's all sorts of track clubs around, and I always kind of wondered about that. So thanks for explaining that fine difference.
There was a transformation from track into road racing. It just seemed like the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm. So you were organizing smaller events, and so you already had a lot of experience in that. Thinking you had the courage to start something with a pretty big vision,
Well, we all trained on the race course of Grandma's Marathon that we have today along the North Shore, and in 1973, I started a muscular dystrophy 26-mile runathon from Two Harbors to Duluth. And so that was going on in 73, 74, 75, 76. Okay. And what we basically did is I wanted to change that fundraiser for muscular dystrophy into an AAU official scheduled marathon. So that's what we did. Then we still kept the muscular dystrophy race on, but we just had a 4-mile race for that, and we still raised money for muscular dystrophy. Although I don't remember exactly why we did that for muscular dystrophy, but we didn't have any money for ourselves, but we were raising money for other people. So that was kind of like helping people that we could, I guess.
So the budget from this, that was run through the North Shore Striders Club?
Yes.
And you mentioned the AAU official, making it an official marathon. The AAU, that's amateur, right?
Amateur Athletic Union. And that was the governing body back in the early days was the Amateur Athletic Union, and what it is now is the United States Track and Field Association. So it's changed, but back then it was the AAU, that's for sure.
Yeah, Catherine Switzer mentions that a lot in her book, Marathon Woman, with the Boston Marathon and trying to negotiate the rules of AAU. Sounded kind of harsh,
Yeah, well, just for a funny little note on that is that when we ran different races, like if we ran Pavel Nurmi Marathon, which I did in 1974,
yep,
they on the application you had to put your AAU number on because you had to be a member of the AAU to run a race.
Mm-hmm.
And all we wrote on there was pending.
Oh, okay.
Like none of us ever signed up and paid for that. It was just like we were too cheap to do that, and so we just wrote pending. Nobody ever checked on it anyway, so it was pretty funny.
Yeah. For those of you out there who have never heard of Paavo Nurmi, he's the Flying Finn. He's the Olympic athlete from Turku, Finland. He's from Finland. I was in there and we saw his statue, and they have an Olympic stadium named after him, Paavo Nurmi. And in the UP of Michigan, I guess it's just Hurley, Wisconsin, they have the Paavo Nurmi Marathon named after him because there's so many Finlanders up there.
Well, this is the deal, though. If I ran Paavo Nurmi in 74, but Paavo Nurmi Marathon is one of the oldest marathons in the country. And they started way before Grandma's. And so I don't know if it was 71, 72 in that range, but if you were a runner that wanted to run a marathon, if you were from Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan, you talk to everybody and say, "Are you going to run Paavo this year? Are you going to run Paavo?" I mean, that was the big deal, is to run Paavo Nurmi. And that was my first marathon. It was Dick Beardsley's first marathon, and many people ran their first marathon at Paavo. And it's still running, and it's organized by the Chamber of Commerce of Hurley, Wisconsin. And and it's a great race. And if you haven't run Pavo, you need to run Pavo.
Yeah.
And then back in my days was, I don't know about it now, but when you finish the race, you got a bowl of kalamoyaka, and kalamoyaka is a soup, and it's fish head soup. So in your bowl of kalamoyaka, if you got the eye of the fish, that would give you good luck.
Oh, I ran it a couple years ago, about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember the soup.
You didn't have any kalamoyaka? What's
I
going
did
on?
not. If I had known I could have gotten some extra good luck for the eye of the fish, I would have gotten some.
You got to swallow the eye of the fish, and you'll be having good luck.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Okay, I'm going to go to my friend's fish tank and grab his fish. That's probably not quite what they mean.
Well, you need to make up. You need to get a recipe for making some kalamoyaka.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you just mentioned Dick. It was Dick Beardsley's first marathon. He's also a Minnesota hometown hero.
It was.
Yeah. And he was on my podcast too last August. He's great. He's so energetic and infectious. And
he is. And he's recently remarried again.
So Dick Beardsley's a newlywed, you said?
He is a newlywed, and there's nobody more excited about it than Dick Beardsley. He's got whatever he does, he's got a lot of energy, and that's for sure.
Yeah. And so you're crediting kind of both him and Gary for helping to promote the marathon when they went to.
Well, that goes back, and so now I talked about 1980, how Gary got us flying through the world here, running his 2:10:20. So 1981 comes, and Dick Beardsley ran a 2:12 in London.
Yeah, he was the winner.
Well, yes, and I had to get Dick to run Grandma's now, and Gary was coming back. Although Gary only did 6 weeks of training, he was probably 15 pounds heavier than his racing weight, and Dick was just on a roll, and so everybody knew it was between Dick and Gary who was going to win this race. And Gary played the card, well, I'm here to help Dick, but to this date, and Dick Beardsley will agree to this 100 times over. Dick ran a 2:09:37, and we'll get into that a little bit, but ran a 2:09:37 and won the race. Gary finished second in 2:11. But Dick has honored Gary ran a better race than him, and the reason is that Gary was heavy.
Yeah.
and his singlet was bouncing out. I mean, he had weight there, and to run a 2:11 marathon with only 6 weeks of training and weighing a little too much, and in Dick's eyes, deserved more credit than his 2:09:37. But anyways, then this is the whole story. Dick runs a 2:09:37. Bill Rogers' brother in Boston said, "There's no way Dick ran a 2:09:37. The course must be short."
Oh, ouch!
And so all of a sudden, now there's a controversy going on. Where our race course is sanctioned by the sanctioning committee of the United States Track and Field, and we're accurate. And so now the media is picking up on this, that Charlie Rogers trying to protect Bill Rogers' times and thinking that nobody, because that 2:09:37 was one of the fastest in the world that year in 1981. And so all of a sudden we had to prove ourselves that we're accurate. We had it remeasured. And in my book, I wrote, I go to lunch every once in a while at Coney Island on First Street, Deluxe Coney Island, and I always get 3 Coneys and a Coke. Sit at the bar stool, and there's a sign right by the malt machine. It says, "Not even a fish would get in trouble if it didn't open its mouth." And so I invited Charlie Rogers to come to have a couple Coneys with me at Deluxe Coney Island on First Street in Duluth anytime he wants to come. Because he opened his mouth when he shouldn't have.
Well, last year, Bill Rogers came up for the Dick Beardsley half marathon in Detroit Lakes.
Yep. And Bill's come to Grandma's many times. We're good friends with Bill. Maybe not so good friends with Charlie, but we're good friends with Bill.
They seem like pretty good buddies, pretty tight now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these are your colleagues.
Absolutely.
You know, they've been competitors and then racing together. Oh, and Dick telling the story of that race of beating Gary, he says he just felt it in his bones that he was going to run a 2:09. And he went to his hotel to check in and he was in room number 209. And then,
yeah. Well, actually, it was like 902 his room was.
Oh.
And it was, but he knew he was going to run a 2:09. It just went, it went into it. He was staying at the Radisson Hotel, and so obviously Dick had a little, I don't know what he had, but he had a belief that he was going to win it, and he did. He was the fittest of the day. That was all there was to it. So
yeah. He also said that as he was nearing the end, some little kid was cheering him on and got in his way, and he ran into the little kid.
Ran
and
him over.
The kid went flying, and he still won. I'm like, oh man! So when did he do the Duel in the Sun? What year was that?
Well, that was 1982.
That was the next year. Okay.
I was at the finish line at that race in 1982 in Boston, and so I had a pass. It was just a generic pass, and so I was so pumped because obviously I'm going to be cheering for Dick, and so I saw these bleachers right at the finish line. I got there so early, and I just had a credential over my neck, and so I sat right in the middle. There was TVs going on there, and there was a bathroom over here. And I go, "This is the perfect place. I'm right at the finish line. I'm going to sit right here." And then all of a sudden, as the race is getting closer, and all of a sudden people start coming by, the bishop comes in, the chief of police comes in, the governor comes in, Alberto Salazar's whole family comes in, and I'm sitting right next to Grandma Salazar.
Yeah.
And we're watching the TV, and I'm not even supposed to be there. I didn't have the right credentials, and so I'm sitting right next to Grandma Salazar, and we're watching TV as the race was going on. And I says, Grandma Salazar, I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, and I'm friends with Dick Beardsley. And then she says, well, if Alberto doesn't win, I hope Dick wins. And then I said, well, if Dick doesn't win, I hope Alberto wins. And obviously there was 2 seconds between the two that finished it. And then the race was over. The police chief and they're getting escorts down below the Prudential building where the medical was and the press conference was. And I'm just sitting, I don't know what to do. I'm just sitting in my seat. And Grandma Salazar turns around and says, Scott, come with us. You're with us. And so I got to go down to the Prudential building. At that point, Alberto was not far away from getting the last rites. He was very, very sick. And Dick Beardsley was giving the press conference. It was underneath in the Prudential building's parking lot.
Yeah.
So I always remember that with Grandma Salazar. And with a rotten credential that got me the good seats anyways.
You weaseled your way in there. And
I weaseled. I just got, I always say I'm Irish, and if nothing else, I got the luck of the Irish. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So the race we're talking about is 1982, the Boston Marathon, when it came down to just Dick Beardsley and Alberto Salazar, and they were neck and neck sprinting pretty much the whole race. And with the finish time, was it something like 2:04?
No, it was 2:08.
2:08.
8:52 for Dick, and 2:08:51, 2:08:53, something like that.
Yeah, just an epic battle between two people. Really, just comes down to your physicality and sticking with it. And and Alberto was the hometown guy in Boston.
Oh, no doubt about it. And he was. And he grew up in the Boston area, and his family was still there. And so it was a good memory of mine. It was fun to be there right at the finish line for that race, and to get to meet Grandma Salazar.
Yeah, accepted by the competitor's family.
Oh yeah, I was one of them, and I enjoyed it. So
And Dick also said that with that race, he got more publicity out of being second than some of the other
well,
races for being first.
yeah. Well, his times, if you see it though, his times just got faster and faster.
Mhm.
209.37 at Grandma's, 208 at Boston. I mean, at this point, every marathon he ran, he was faster at.
Wow.
Eventually, that slowed down, and it slowed down in 1982 at Grandma's Marathon because he ran Grandma's Marathon just a few months later, 2 months later,
Mm-hmm.
and he ran a 2:14 at Grandma's. So it was almost the wrong thing for Dick to do, and I'm at fault with that because I recruited Dick to come back at Grandma's, and Boston Marathon is just a difficult marathon to recover from. It's got extreme downhills, extreme uphills, and it takes a toll on the legs, and for very few people can come back in 2 months and run another marathon. And after Dick ran his 2:14 at Grandma's right after Boston in 1982, it was a little slow. Well, it was the beginning of the slide down from his running. So it was a very hard recovery from when he ran Grandma's 2:14 afterwards. So
he gave it his all.
Yeah, it's just you can't do it forever.
No. So you met all sorts of incredible people along the way, including Grandma Salazar was a fun, unexpected person to meet. But what are some of the people I think that maybe influenced you in a way that you didn't realize? Like they did something, but then later on realized that they had an impact on what you were doing.
Anytime you went to any race, I mean, I went to so many races in cities across the country, watching other races and learning, and I would say Grandma's Marathon is a accumulation of other races as well, because it's a community of us trying to improve everything we do, and make your particular race the best race that you can. I take my hat off to all the race directors that I've met over the years, and that gave it their all, as I did, and they had so much influence on what we did at Grandma's Marathon. Just even an example, it's not a marathon, but in 1979, February of 1979, I went to the American Birkebeiner.
Oh yeah,
and
the cross country ski race,
largest ski race in North America. And I'd never been there before. I'm not a skier, but I went there to see how they put that race on, and because we're trying to upgrade Grandma's Marathon, right? And to make it better, and if we could find learn from somebody else, that's a good thing, right? And all of a sudden, I was with the president of Grandma's Saloon in Delhi at the time, with Debbie Blackmer. And all of a sudden, as we're approaching the finish line, before the first skier came across at the Telemark Lodge, I heard this voice. It was the finish line announcer. And I go, wow, that's incredible. And so we got a little closer, and the way he called the finish line and the finishers and his voice, it was Peter Graves. And after the Birkebeiner that day, we exchanged business cards, and I invited him to be the finish line announcer for Grandma's Marathon. And in 1979, we got Peter Graves to call the finish line, not just for the top runners, but for all of the runners for 7 hours. He was the finish line announcer for Grandma's Marathon for all these years. And just by that connection alone, upgraded Grandma's Marathon to a much higher level. And so once again, we're surrounding ourselves, finding people that had the same beliefs that we had, surrounding ourselves with people that could make a difference, and see the same vision that I had and others had, and Peter Graves. Just by going to the Birkebeiner, we learned a lot. They had American. I mean, you talked earlier about all the flags in different countries.
Yeah.
You know where that came from? American Birkebeiner.
Oh, okay.
I stole that idea right away from the American Breakfast Miner because they had flags all down the line.
Yes.
So see, this is how it works. I mean, you got to be open to take the good and leave the bad away. You know, you don't want to do something stupid. You know, so.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even at the Boston Marathon back in the old days, the space blankets, the heat blankets that people
Yeah.
have, I got that idea from Boston. I mean, nobody was doing that but Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So after I see it at Boston, then we did it, you know, and that helps the runner safety and stuff. So, and I'm sure some other races are taking hints from Grandma's Marathon too. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good thing.
So on a side note, all those silver foil blankets, I have so much marathon
Yep.
swag. Yeah. I use them to grow my plants. So I have little
Oh,
seedlings in my
perfect.
basement and with some
Perfect.
grow lights, and I wrap the space blankets, the electric foil or the silver foil space blankets around my plants to reflect the to
Well,
reflect the
good.
light on them more.
You get some good growing out of that then.
I do. I do. Yeah. So I was just looking at that going,
You're recycling those, and that's a good thing, or reusing them is a better word, I
yeah.
think. And although I do know that we at Grandma's Marathon, we recycle all the ones that are thrown away. They don't go to the dump.
Mm-hmm.
They are literally recycled into another productive product.
Yeah, because Grandma's Marathon has the initiative to reduce their carbon footprint and go green and all these other good
Well,
things
it
too.
was very important to do that. I mean, it's you know, recycling is important, and you got to have the desire to do it, right?
Yeah.
And Grandma's Marathon's got a strong desire to do it, so I'm very proud of that. So that's a good thing.
Maybe you could talk quick about this partnership with Grandma's Saloon. I mean, why is it named Grandma's Marathon? I love the name, and especially since it's an elite competitive race and it's called Grandma's, something that's kind of sweet
Well,
and you know.
it's kind of neat. It goes back to 1977 again, and well, even the fall of 1976, because once we put the budget together, and I got the budget together, and the North Shore Striders, we all agreed that we're going to put this marathon on, but we needed a sponsor, so I hand typed, which I can't type, a budget, and went to the utility companies, went to the banks, and went to other businesses, and got rejected every time. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was 23 years old, fast talking, skinny, gaunt looking, and I wasn't having much success. So I set
Mm-hmm.
up a meeting with Mickey Pellucci and Andy Borg, a new restaurant that opened in Canal Park, which we wanted to finish there anyways, and try to get $600 of sponsorship going. But at this time, I was a little smarter. So a gentleman named George Fink, who was 39 years old, worked for Northwestern Bell. And I said, George and I were great friends. I said, George, I need you at this meeting as well, because George had the biggest smile. You could never say no to George. And so George and I met on the parking lot where we wanted to finish with Mickey Pellucci and Andy Borg, and we gave our little spiel together, and they said, yep, we're going to do it. And I said right there, I said, anybody that gives me $600 and we'll finish here, we're going to call this race Grandma's Marathon.
Yeah.
And so it was a good deal for them. At the time, it was a great deal for us. But then almost all the marathons other than Pavel Nurmi were named after cities. If it was New York City Marathon,
Yeah.
Las Vegas Marathon, Seattle Marathon, you just went through it. And so it was people talking all over the country and over the world. They were talking, how come they call it Grandma's Marathon? Is it named after the Grandma's cookie, or is it just for grandmas, or what's going on? And so it got a lot of interest going, and that turned out to be a big plus for us. That's for sure.
Well, I'm a grandma, and last time I ran, I had a sign on my back that said, "I'm a grandma and I'm ahead of you."
In 1986, well, we have something in common. 1986, I ran Grandma's Marathon.
Okay.
And on the back of my singlet said, if you finish ahead of me, I'll buy you a beer. And I bought over 1,000 beers that day. So, so it's kind of fun. And in fact, we're the only race that I know of that we have a division. There's a grandma's mother division.
I
So
love that. Hmm.
category. So and the first grandmother that won that division was May Horns, who
Hmm.
happens to be the mother of Janice Klecker, Janice Horns
Oh.
Klecker,
Hmm.
and a famous woman runner from Minneapolis.
I think there's about 150 or 200 grandmas in the race.
Yeah, it's just great. And but May Horns was the first winner of the grandma's division
Hmm.
winner. So that was kind of fun.
And you have your grandma at the finish line too, and she is what, the
We do
daughter of the original grandma? She wears the
very much
same
so.
clothes from
Oh
the
yeah,
original grandma, the same outfit.
oh absolutely, and tradition goes down. That's for sure. And so that'll be exciting. I'll be at the finish line, so I'll see her there,
Hmm.
and we'll see how that goes, and that'll be fun. And I don't always go to the finish line after I retired, but this year I will be there. So
Hmm. Are you going to be at the expo too?
yep, I will be selling some books.
Okay, I'll see you there. I'm going to have my booth again this year too. That was really
Oh,
fun
good.
last year. So you're going to be at the finish line. What are you looking forward to?
Well, the biggest thing is that we're having a reunion for the North Shore Striders, and
Hmm.
that'll be Friday night at 6 o'clock, and at
Hmm.
the Train Museum.
Hmm.
And so I'm really excited about that. I've been planning that for a year with Grandma's Marathon staff,
Hmm.
and so just to see all these people, old timers that I haven't seen for a long time, is going to be very important. So it's a lot of fun. And we have a bunch of honorary striders too, and some of the honorary striders are people like Dick Beardsley, Jenny Spangler, who won our 1983 women's marathon
Hmm.
and it was a world record at the time for women 20 and under. She ran 2:33:51, and Ray Muller will be there, Janice Klecker, Barney Klecker will be there, Doug Curtis will be there, Michael Pinocci will be there with his wife Kitty, and these are honorary striders, and then we'll have over 100 regular striders there too. So
Are the Striders still running up there?
no, the striders ended in 1988 as a club.
Hmm.
It ended, but it was sad. But
Yeah, and then at some point too, your sponsorship with Grandma's Saloon pulled out as well, and you had to make a change there.
that was
Yeah.
1987,
Uh-huh.
and it was right after the big storm that blew everything down into the lake. It was
Mm-hmm.
tornado winds came off Lake Superior and blew all the tents and tables and fan equipment into the lake, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't very good. And then at that time too, there was an accident on
Mm-hmm.
8 Mile mark of the course where a young girl ran across where a car was trying to get out of where they were fishing, and hurt her foot pretty severe, and there was a lawsuit on that, and I think grandmas didn't want to sponsor it anymore after that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put on a nonprofit. I made Grandma's Marathon a nonprofit corporation separate from the North Shore Striders.
Yeah. So ultimately, that spurred you to do something positive, and it became even bigger.
You know, it was probably the most challenging thing in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden I had uh, big pockets behind me with the Palucci family and grandmas, and all of a sudden I'm down to $33.50 again, like the North Shore Striders did in 1977. So
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden I have to start raising money, and then in 1987 we're hosting the women's national marathon championships. So that was another at least $50,000, $60,000 I had to raise. So
Mm-hmm.
I was in panic mode a lot to raise the money and to balance the budget and put together a board of directors and all this stuff. It was no doubt in my mind probably the most challenging time of my life.
Yeah. So what made you finally say, "Oh, it's time to take off my shoes, time to hang up, time to pass the baton"?
It wasn't nothing like that. I just couldn't do it anymore. The weather was challenging in 2012 and 2013. Storms coming in, and even before that, weather-related things, and
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of raising money.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of just asking people to be a sponsor or give me $10 or whatever the case is. it was hard for me. But probably maybe the biggest thing was that all of our we have 200 volunteer coordinators that actually run the race, which is the greatest thing. They were getting old. They were getting tired. They were ready to retire. And I wasn't in the mood to restructure all of that.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I just couldn't do it anymore. My heart was to do it, but if I kept on doing it, I would have had a heart attack. There's no doubt about it. The stress level was increasing tenfold than it was before. And on the psychological, emotional level, I was done. I was toast. And all I remember is kissing my wife on the cheek at 3:30 in the morning, going down to get the race going, and said, "This is my last race," and I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. And it's hard to explain, but when you just can't do it anymore, you can't do it. And you have to let go. So it was, I didn't have a choice in it. I just had to let go.
That was 2013.
Yep, 2013.
I had my own business for many years as well. And I changed, over time. And at the end, I just didn't want to take the same amount of risks that I had earlier. I was getting more financially secure at the end, and I didn't want to lose that. And there was a lot of ways I could have continued to grow the company. But like you said, I just didn't have the energy to do it anymore. I'd gotten into a point where I was happy and I was ready to pass it on to someone else who could grow it.
And there's the fourth thing. It was that there's other things I wanted to do. I mean, I've got grandkids. My wife was still working, so we had health insurance through her work at the hospital. I was into gardening. My wife, when I was married to my wife, she bought me a shovel and a wheelbarrow, so I knew I was in trouble right away. Digging the backyard up, but there was another chapter in my life. And if you don't let go of one, you'll never know if you discover another one. And so after I retired, I did a lot of consulting for 5-6 years with nonprofit organizations, because I had a certificate on nonprofit works and at the university and fundraising at other races and so I was doing that all over the world. I went to Bhutan, the country just south of China, and India for the Bhutan International Marathon. I went to Iceland. I was traveling. I was doing something other, and then I got into coaching again. And God, that was the biggest positive thing in my whole life, was coaching again. And so cross-country running. And so if you don't let go sometimes, and you don't know what the other options are out there. And then as you mentioned, I wrote a book, and then I wrote a second book. And,
you written two now. Okay.
Yeah, I got 2 books, and the second one is called Toboggan Run. It's 25 short stories of my life growing up in Duluth.
Oh, okay.
And called Toboggan Run. And there's other things to do out there. I don't have to be on the city council for more than 8 years. I don't have to be a race director. I mean, look, I started race directing in 1972, and I went to 2013. That's a good run, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, you don't have to do it till you're 98 years old. I mean, it's like, and I couldn't do it anyway, so it was just time to pull the plug and move on. But I've been a big fan. I'm a big fan of Grandma's Marathon. They're doing a great job, and I'm down there all the time. And the transition has been a wonderful transition.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you should kind of transition here and wrap it up a little bit. You mentioned fundraising. Well, I'm trying to be a better fundraiser too. Turns out it's hard for me to ask people for money, but this is a podcast with a purpose to raise money for medical research. So if
it is,
if people out there enjoyed hearing Scott's story today and would like to contribute, please make a donation at unstoppablestoriesthatmove.com. And then, Scott, I got 2 final questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is, what's your purpose?
I wake up every day, and my purpose is I'm so grateful for being alive. All my friends are dead, and I want to make an impact on each day. whatever it is. If it's bringing brand new sleeping bags down to the shelters, in the wintertime so people can stay warm, or just going to class reunions. I mean, I coached at East High School for 6 years, and I'm invited to all of these wonderful graduation things. So I'm looking forward to. I'm going to a bunch of those. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to looking up in the sky and seeing the birds fly. I look forward to listening to my rock and roll music and when I'm working in the gardens. I look forward to going to dinner with my wife. I look forward to taking a vacation. I walked across the headwaters of the Mississippi River last year, and Itasca State Park. Always wanted to do that, and I did that for the first time, and that was one of the most exciting things I've ever done. And so you just have to open your eyes and open your arms and embrace what comes your way, So that's the purpose. Just enjoy life.
Purpose, enjoy life. I love that. And then my last question for you is, what makes you unstoppable?
I'm high energy. The only thing in my whole life doing Grandma's Marathon, anything I've ever done, my only fear I ever had in my life was failing.
Yeah.
And it made me work harder, and I kept working harder because I could not believe I could fail. I refused to fail. And so I just keeps me going is whatever I do. If I garden and if there's one more weed, I got to get the dang weed out of there, out of the garden.
Yes.
So it's, I can't let the garden beat me. I'm very competitive, and I just don't want to fail on anything I do. And I don't want to fail to my grandkids, my great grandnieces. I don't want to fail to anybody. I just want to be there to help out if I can.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it and learned a few things. Well, the people that we talked about today, they don't quit, and neither should you. Whether you're running marathons, rebuilding your life, or just searching for that next spark, you are more capable than you think. If this episode hits home, share it, subscribe, leave a review. Let's build this community together of relentless people who refuse to stop moving forward. And if you want to do something even bigger, support the mission. We're raising $1 million for medical research, and your support makes a difference. Check out our website at unstoppablestoriesthatmove.com. I'm Sally Hed Dahlquist. Until next time, keep running, keep pushing, and never stop proving to yourself what's possible.